The world's richest man thought he could intimidate a congresswoman with a lawsuit threat. What happened next shocked everyone, including Elon Musk himself. Picture this: Elon Musk, worth over $200 billion, sitting at the top of his empire, decides to send a cease and desist letter to a Texas Democrat who dared question his government contracts. He probably thought it would be easy. Just another politician who would back down when faced with his army of lawyers and unlimited bank account. But when Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett's lawyer fired back with a response letter, it wasn't just a legal document. It was a nuclear bomb that exposed everything Musk didn't want the public to know. The tech billionaire, who usually dominates Twitter with confident tweets, suddenly went silent. Then came the phone calls, the private messages, and finally something nobody saw coming: Elon Musk begging for mercy. What started as Musk flexing his legal muscles turned into the most humiliating legal beatdown of his career. And it all happened because he underestimated a congresswoman from Dallas who wasn't about to be bullied by anyone, not even the richest man on earth. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any of these explosive political showdowns. Trust me, you're going to want to see how this ends. Elon Musk sits at the top of a financial empire worth over $200 billion. As the CEO of Tesla, SpaceX, and owner of X, formerly Twitter, he's used to getting his way. When politicians criticize his companies or question his government contracts, Musk has a standard playbook: unleash his legal team and his massive social media following to crush opposition. His SpaceX alone holds billions in NASA contracts, while his Starlink satellite network has become crucial for military communications. Tesla benefits from billions in government subsidies and tax breaks. When anyone questions these arrangements, Musk's response is swift and brutal: lawsuits, social media attacks, and pressure campaigns designed to silence critics. The tech mogul has a history of going after journalists, whistleblowers, and politicians who dare to challenge him. His legal team at Quinn Emanuel Urquhart and Sullivan is known for aggressive tactics. Musk himself has over 150 million followers on X, giving him a massive platform to destroy reputations with a single tweet. Think about that for a moment. One tweet from Musk can reach more people than most TV shows. He's weaponized his follower count into a harassment machine that can make life miserable for anyone who crosses him. Politicians have backed down, journalists have been silenced, and critics have been destroyed, all because they dared to question the man who sees himself as untouchable. His pattern was always the same: identify the threat, unleash the lawyers, activate the social media army, and watch his opponents crumble under the pressure. It had worked dozens of times before. Corporate executives, government officials, even other billionaires had learned not to mess with Elon Musk. But there was one problem with Musk's usual strategy. He'd never faced anyone like Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett represents Texas's 30th congressional district, covering parts of Dallas and its suburbs. At 43, she's a former civil rights attorney who spent years taking on powerful corporations and corrupt officials before entering politics. Unlike many politicians who avoid confrontation with billionaires, Crockett has made holding powerful interests accountable her signature issue. As a member of the House Oversight Committee, Crockett has been relentless in questioning government contracts awarded to Musk's companies. She's raised concerns about SpaceX's safety record, Tesla's use of taxpayer subsidies, and Starlink's role in military operations. Her questioning during committee hearings has been sharp, direct, and impossible to ignore. But Crockett isn't just tough in hearings. She's built a reputation as someone who doesn't back down from fights, no matter how powerful the opponent. Her background as a civil rights lawyer taught her how to take on entities with unlimited resources. She knows how to research, how to build cases, and most importantly, how to expose the truth. Before entering Congress, she had already defeated Fortune 500 companies in court. She had stared down corrupt officials and won. She understood that bullies, no matter how rich or powerful, all had the same weakness. They weren't used to people fighting back with facts, preparation, and unwavering determination. What Musk didn't realize is that threatening Jasmine Crockett was like poking a sleeping tiger. And this tiger had claws that could cut through even the thickest billionaire armor. The confrontation began during a House Oversight Committee hearing on government contracting practices. Crockett was questioning why SpaceX had received emergency contract modifications worth hundreds of millions without proper oversight. Her questions were precise and damaging. "Mr. Chairman, how can we justify giving emergency modifications to a company whose CEO uses his platform to attack government officials and spread misinformation? How do we know these contracts aren't being influenced by political considerations rather than merit?" The hearing clip went viral, with Crockett's questioning trending on social media. She had hit a nerve, and everyone knew it. The Congresswoman had managed to do what most politicians avoid: directly challenge Musk's business practices while questioning whether his political behavior should disqualify him from taxpayer-funded contracts. But instead of addressing her concerns through proper channels, Musk chose to make it personal. Within 48 hours, his legal team had prepared their attack. This wasn't going to be a policy debate or a professional disagreement. This was going to be war. The stage was set for a battle between unlimited wealth and unshakable principle. On one side stood Elon Musk with billions of dollars and armies of lawyers. On the other side stood Jasmine Crockett, with truth, determination, and a secret weapon that would soon turn the tables completely. But here's what makes this story so incredible. Musk had no idea what he was walking into. He saw a congresswoman asking tough questions and thought he could intimidate her into silence, just like he had done to countless others before. He couldn't have been more wrong. The decision to legally threaten a sitting member of Congress would prove to be one of the biggest mistakes of Musk's career, because what happened next would expose not just his business practices, but his complete misunderstanding of how American democracy actually works. On a Tuesday morning in March, a courier delivered a thick envelope to Congresswoman Crockett's Capitol Hill office. Inside was a 12-page cease and desist letter from Quinn Emanuel, one of the most expensive law firms in America. The letter alone was designed to intimidate: thick paper, embossed logo, and the signatures of 3 senior partners. The letter was brutal and direct. It accused Crockett of making defamatory statements about Musk and his companies during the oversight hearing. It claimed her questions implied corruption and misconduct without evidence. The legal document demanded she immediately stop making false and misleading statements about SpaceX, Tesla, and Musk personally. But the real threat came in the final paragraphs. The letter warned that continued defamatory conduct would result in immediate legal action, seeking substantial monetary damages and court orders preventing further statements. It gave Crockett exactly 7 days to respond with a written apology and assurance that she would cease her harassment campaign. The message was clear: apologize and shut up, or face legal destruction from one of the world's richest men. While his lawyers delivered the legal threat, Musk launched a parallel attack on X. His first tweet was carefully crafted to seem reasonable while being devastating. Congresswoman Crockett continues making false statements about SpaceX contracts. When politicians lie about job-creating companies, they hurt American innovation. Lawyers are handling this appropriately. The tweet got over 2 million views in the first hour. Musk's army of supporters immediately began attacking Crockett, flooding her social media with accusations of being anti-innovation and jealous of success. The hashtag SpaceXLies began trending, with thousands of accounts sharing the same talking points. But Musk wasn't done. Over the next 48 hours, he posted a series of increasingly aggressive tweets. Some politicians think they can say anything without consequences. They're about to learn otherwise. Defamation has real costs. Ask my lawyers. Government officials who abuse their platform to spread lies should face accountability. Each tweet was retweeted tens of thousands of times, creating a massive harassment campaign against Crockett. Her office phone lines were flooded with angry calls. Her social media mentions became toxic cesspools of attacks and threats. But inside Crockett's office, there was no panic. Her chief of staff, Maria Rodriguez, had been through political battles before. Her communications director, James Washington, immediately began documenting every attack and threat for potential legal action. Most importantly, Crockett reached out to her longtime friend and former colleague, attorney Sandra Chun. Chun had worked with Crockett at the civil rights law firm where they'd taken on Fortune 500 companies and won. If anyone could handle Musk's legal team, it was Chun. "Sandra," Crockett said during their phone call, I need you to review something and I think you're going to find it very interesting. Chen agreed to take the case pro bono, but not just out of friendship. As she reviewed Musk's legal threat and researched his company's government contracts, she realized something explosive. Musk's attempt to silence a congresswoman might have opened the door to exposing information he desperately wanted to keep secret. While Musk's lawyers celebrated what they thought was an easy intimidation victory, Chen's team began digging. They requested documents through Freedom of Information Act filings. They interviewed former SpaceX and Tesla employees who had signed non-disclosure agreements but were willing to talk to congressional investigators. Most importantly, they began analyzing the very government contracts that Crockett had questioned in the hearing. What they found was explosive. Contract modifications that bypassed normal procedures, safety reports that had been buried, and communications between Musk's companies and government officials that suggested improper influence. Chen realized that Musk's legal threat had given them something precious: the right to defend their client by proving the truth of her statements. In legal terms, this was called the truth defense. If Crockett's statements were accurate, they couldn't be defamatory. But proving the truth would require exposing information that could destroy Musk's carefully constructed public image and potentially trigger criminal investigations. As the 7-day deadline approached, Chen worked around the clock preparing her response. But this wouldn't be a typical legal letter. This would be what lawyers call a nuclear option. On the 6th day after receiving Musk's cease and desist letter, Attorney Sanderson delivered what would become legendary in legal circles. A 47-page response that wasn't just a defense. It was a complete evisceration of Elon Musk's legal position and public credibility. The letter began politely enough. "We represent Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett in response to your March 15th correspondence." But what followed was a surgical dismantling of every argument Musk's lawyers had made, followed by revelations that would make headlines around the world. Chen's first section demolished the defamation claims with constitutional law that any first-year law student would recognize. She cited the speech or debate clause, which protects congressional members from lawsuits based on their official duties. She noted that Musk's lawyers had apparently forgotten that questioning government contracts during oversight hearings is exactly what Congress is supposed to do. Your client's attempt to silence a member of Congress through legal intimidation demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of constitutional law, Chen wrote, adding that Congresswoman Crockett's questions during the oversight hearing were absolutely protected legislative conduct. But then came the devastating part. However, since your client has chosen to make truthfulness an issue, we welcome the opportunity to demonstrate the accuracy of every statement made by our client. What followed was 30 pages of documented evidence that Musk's companies had been involved in exactly the kind of conduct Crockett had questioned. Chen had done what Musk's lawyers thought was impossible. She had gathered proof. The evidence included SpaceX contract irregularities, such as emergency contract modifications worth $847 million that bypassed competitive bidding, safety violations at launch facilities that were downgraded to avoid contract penalties, communications between SpaceX executives and Pentagon officials suggesting improper influence, and internal documents showing SpaceX had lied about technical capabilities to secure contracts. Tesla subsidy abuse was documented through evidence that the company had claimed tax credits for vehicles that didn't meet eligibility requirements, documentation showing Tesla had received emergency COVID-19 loans while Musk was buying Twitter, and internal emails joking about government money being easy money. The Starlink military contract section provided proof that Starlink had been turned off during critical military operations without authorization, evidence that Musk had personally interfered with military communications for political reasons, and documentation showing foreign governments had been given access to Starlink data. But Chen wasn't finished. The most explosive section of her letter detailed how Musk's legal threat itself might constitute federal crimes. Your client's attempt to silence congressional oversight through legal intimidation may constitute witness intimidation under 18 U.S.C. 1512, obstruction of a congressional investigation under 18 U.S.C. 1505, and conspiracy to deprive civil rights under 18 U.S.C. 241. Chen wrote, attaching legal precedents showing that wealthy individuals had been prosecuted for similar attempts to silence government officials. The message was clear. Musk wasn't just facing a lawsuit, he was potentially facing criminal charges. Chun coordinated the letter's release for maximum impact, sending it to Musk's lawyers at exactly 5 p.m. on a Friday, too late for Musk's team to respond before the weekend news cycle, but perfect timing for maximum media coverage. The response was immediate and devastating. Someone leaked the letter to the Washington Post within an hour of it being sent. It appeared on every major news website within 2 hours. Cable news shows were reading excerpts on air by evening. Musk's initial reaction was typical. He took to X with a series of increasingly unhinged tweets. Corrupt politicians and their lawyers making false accusations. This is why America is failing. Some people think lying with illegal documents has no consequences. They're about to find out. My lawyers are reviewing all options. This won't stand. But as the night wore on and the evidence began trending on social media, Musk's tone started changing. From confident billionaire to defensive, then desperate. These documents are taken out of context. Normal business practices being twisted by political enemies. Government contracts are complicated. Politicians don't understand how business works. And finally, considering taking a break from social media to focus on Mars mission. By Saturday morning, the story had exploded across every major news outlet with devastating headlines. CNN reported, Musk threatened Congresswoman. Her lawyer exposes alleged contract fraud. The Washington Post declared, legal letter reveals potential criminal conduct by Musk companies. The New York Times asked how a defamation threat backfired spectacularly for Elon Musk. Even Fox News was running Musk under fire. Did legal threat expose government contract abuse? The most damaging coverage came from business networks, with CNBC's legal analyst calling it one of the most spectacular legal own goals in corporate history, while Bloomberg reported that Tesla and SpaceX shares were dropping in pre-market trading as investors worried about potential government contract cancellations. By Monday morning, Crockett's House Oversight Committee colleagues were demanding investigations, with even Republicans who usually supported business interests beginning to distance themselves from Musk. Committee Chairman James Comer announced expanded hearings into government contracting practices. More damaging, other congressional committees began announcing their own investigations. The House Armed Services Committee wanted to review Starlink military contracts. The Energy and Commerce Committee was announcing hearings on Tesla's subsidy claims. The Judiciary Committee was beginning discussions about potential criminal referrals. Legal experts across the political spectrum praised Chen's response letter as a masterclass in strategic litigation. Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz called it brilliant legal writing that turns a frivolous defamation claim into a corruption investigation. Georgetown University's legal ethics professor noted, this is what happens when you try to bully someone who knows the law better than you do. Musk's lawyers should have known better. The most serious development came when the Justice Department announced a formal investigation into potential criminal violations. The investigation would examine whether Musk's legal threat constituted witness intimidation under federal law, potential fraud in government contract applications and modifications, possible obstruction of congressional investigations, and conspiracy charges related to coordinated efforts to silence oversight. Federal prosecutors in Washington, D.C. and Los Angeles began issuing subpoenas. Former SpaceX and Tesla employees received immunity offers in exchange for testimony. Grand jury proceedings began in multiple jurisdictions. Meanwhile, sources close to Musk reported that he was apoplectic about the situation. His usual confident demeanor was replaced by panic as he realized the legal threat had backfired catastrophically. Private messages obtained by journalists showed Musk frantically calling allies for help, reaching out to Republican senators asking them to pressure the Justice Department not to investigate, contacting media executives trying to limit coverage of the story, and most tellingly, beginning to reach out to Democratic politicians he had previously attacked, offering to make donations and provide support in exchange for backing off the investigations. His desperation became increasingly obvious as he began making unprecedented concessions, offering to testify voluntarily before congressional committees, promising to implement new compliance measures at his companies, and even suggesting he would step back from government contracting altogether if investigations were dropped. Tesla and SpaceX executives reportedly held emergency meetings to discuss damage control strategies. with some senior staff members privately expressing concerns about their boss's erratic behavior and its impact on company operations. The man who had built his reputation on bold confidence and seemingly untouchable success was now scrambling desperately to contain a crisis entirely of his own making. But the avalanche had already started, and nothing could stop it now. Within a week of Chen's devastating response letter, Elon Musk's entire legal strategy collapsed. The man who had tried to intimidate a congresswoman was now desperately trying to contain the fallout from his own threat. His first move was predictable: hire more lawyers. Musk retained David Kendall, the white-collar defense attorney who had represented Bill Clinton during impeachment. He brought in Williams and Connolly, one of Washington's most expensive criminal defense firms. The message was clear. This had moved beyond civil litigation into potential criminal territory. But the damage was spreading faster than his legal team could contain it. Government watchdog groups filed ethics complaints with the House Ethics Committee, demanding investigation into whether Musk's threats constituted improper pressure on a federal official. The Project on Government Oversight announced they were filing Freedom of Information Act requests for all communications between Musk's companies and government agencies. Most embarrassingly for Musk, he began personally calling Congresswoman Crockett's office 3 times in one day, trying to speak with her directly. When told she wouldn't take his calls, he sent a series of increasingly desperate text messages through intermediaries. "I want to resolve this misunderstanding. Happy to discuss campaign contributions. The legal letter was my lawyer's idea. I respect congressional oversight. Would love to testify before committee to clear the air. Very supportive of transparency." Meanwhile, Congresswoman Crockett handled her vindication with characteristic grace and strategic brilliance. Instead of gloating, she used the moment to advance her oversight agenda. Her response to Musk's desperate outreach was measured but firm. "I appreciate Mr. Musk acknowledging that his legal threat was inappropriate. However, apologies don't answer the serious questions about how taxpayer dollars are being spent. Our oversight work will continue until the American people get the transparency they deserve." Crockett used her newfound national profile to push for broader reforms. She introduced the Government Contract Transparency Act, requiring real-time disclosure of all contract modifications over $10 million. She called for congressional hearings on the influence of social media platforms in government contracting decisions. Most importantly, she proved that even the world's richest man couldn't intimidate elected officials from doing their jobs. Her approval rating soared, and she became a hero to government accountability advocates across the political spectrum. Attorney Sandra Chin became an overnight celebrity in legal circles. Her response letter was being taught in law schools as an example of strategic litigation. She received speaking invitations from bar associations across the country. 6 months after Musk's initial legal threat, multiple investigations were still ongoing across every level of government and the courts. Congressional investigations had expanded dramatically. Criminal investigations were even more serious, including a Justice Department probe into witness intimidation and fraud charges, SEC investigations into market manipulation through social media platforms, IRS criminal investigations into potentially fraudulent tax credit claims, and multiple grand juries in different jurisdictions considering various charges. The Musk-Crockett case became a turning point in how wealthy individuals interact with government oversight. It demonstrated that legal intimidation tactics could backfire spectacularly when used against prepared opponents. The case also highlighted the importance of congressional oversight in holding powerful interests accountable. Crockett's initial questions, which had seemed routine, led to revelations that might result in criminal charges and billions in recovered taxpayer funds. The ultimate irony of the Musk-Crockett confrontation is that Musk's attempt to silence oversight led to the most comprehensive investigation of his business practices in history. By trying to intimidate one congresswoman, he triggered investigations by dozens of government agencies and prosecutors. His legal threat, designed to end scrutiny, instead guaranteed that scrutiny would continue for years. His attempt to demonstrate power instead revealed his vulnerability. His effort to silence criticism instead amplified it to a national audience. As one legal analyst noted, Elon Musk tried to prove that money equals power. Instead, he proved that in America, the Constitution still matters more than wealth. The Musk-Crockett story offers a powerful lesson about American democracy. It shows that even the wealthiest and most powerful individuals cannot escape accountability when determined public servants refuse to be intimidated. It demonstrates the importance of having fearless elected officials who will ask tough questions regardless of the political or financial consequences. It proves that strategic legal thinking can overcome even unlimited resources when right is on your side. Most importantly, it reminds us that in America, no one, not even the richest man in the world, is above the law or beyond the reach of democratic accountability. Thanks for watching this incredible story of how legal intimidation backfired spectacularly. If you enjoyed seeing how Congresswoman Crockett and her lawyer turned the tables on Elon Musk, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more stories of political accountability and justice. What do you think will happen next in Musk's legal troubles? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest videos exposing the truth behind the headlines.